Kade Anderson's MLB debut got a little overshadowed on Saturday, but we'll break it all down coming up. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Monday, August 24th, 2026. My name is Kade Gonzalez, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Colby Patnode. On today's show, we'll open up the mailbag and answer some of your Mariners questions, but something you guys didn't ask us about was Kade Anderson's MLB debut on Saturday. So we're going to talk about that first to kick things off. One of the biggest debuts in Mariners history, frankly, especially recent Mariners history, going up against the Chicago Cubs, the best lineup in all of baseball, statistically speaking, especially against left-handed pitching. And Anderson goes 5 2/3, gives up 3 earned runs on 5 hits, 2 of those solo home runs, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks on 81 pitches, just 5 hard hit balls given up in total. A lot has been made of Anderson's fastball and how lackluster it was on Saturday coming out of that start. And while I do agree it was lackluster, obviously he's using the Major League Baseball ball for the first time. It's a different ball down in Double-A. It's also just one start. Like, can we give him a little bit more time before we write all these huge think pieces about Kade Anderson's fastball? Also, Pitch Profiler had Anderson's 3 other pitches as above average offerings in that start. He averaged a 45% whiff rate on his slider. He got 2 whiffs on 3 swings on his curveball. There were a lot of good things that Kade Anderson did in the start. And he started out pretty hot as well. You know, gets that first strikeout against Alex Bregman, gets a couple more strikeouts in the second inning, I believe. He had some real flashes over the course of this outing. It was really fun to watch, really cool to see. And frankly, that final line looks a lot worse than it should have. You know, unfortunately, Dan Wilson tries to squeeze a little bit of extra juice out of Anderson that he shouldn't have tried to. Having him go out there for the 3rd time against the Cubs lineup with him already pushing up against the season high in pitches, just totally unnecessary to have him go out and do that. And things obviously go sideways, gives up the 2 solo home runs, and he's not able to finish that inning. And ultimately, his debut ends on a sour note. So that was a little bit of a bummer. But again, not too concerned about the fastball. Definitely not concerned at all about how things ended there, really. He just shouldn't have been put in that position to begin with. So overall, I feel really good about Kade Anderson's debut.
Yeah, I mean, again, like you said, it came against arguably the best offense in all of baseball, and certainly the best against left-handed pitching. And on national TV, no less. So not the easiest landing spot for Kade, and I thought he performed quite well. Not too surprising to see the poise. That's always been kind of a big part of Kade, is that he's, on top of being very polished, he's kind of a big game pitcher, and he has that reputation of not letting the moment get too big for him. And so I'm not too surprised that he threw the ball as well as he did. Like you said, the line should have been better. It could have been better. It should have been better. Dan had 4 opportunities to take him out, and he didn't take him out in any of them. And he even got a gift of the boneheaded, base running of PCA to get even more than he could have possibly hoped out of Kade, and he still decided to roll with him again. And then after that, ended in disaster, another one, before he finally took him out. So you guys all saw it. We know Dan's incapable of making even the simplest and most obvious baseball decisions you could possibly make, and we're not going to spend the segment ripping Dan because we do that every day, essentially. And no, we're not going to tell you guys who's going to be hired when he gets fired, because we've done that like every week for the last 5 weeks. And no. Anywho, so I was at the stadium. Good energy, good vibes. Obviously, not much I could tell from watching where I was. I was up in 313. So good.
You saw everything.
Yeah, they're good seats, but not for scouting purposes. Not that I'm much of a scout anyway.
No, you could see the break on every single pitch. You can see all the calls correctly. Yeah.
Oh, dude, the guy in front of me,
Blue.
The guy in front of me went, 100% on his strike calls. Like he would not have lost a single challenge.
Right.
He's also
tap your head, Julio.
Yeah. He's also ripping into Julio for his lack of production while wearing a Cal Raleigh jersey. Not get the irony there, but okay, whatever. Anyways, so when I went back and watched, the breaking balls were really good. I felt like the changeup, he sailed a couple to his glove side, to his arm side and up and elevated. So that is something that he'll have to fix through some good ones, certainly. But I feel like that really wasn't much of a factor there. It really was the two breaking balls that carried him and got him big outs when he needed them. Fastball, he missed a couple times. Glove side just kind of over yanked him a little bit, and so some minor things here, some pitches that either he tried to put a little extra on, or like we talked about, the seams on the baseball are different, so he's kind of trying to figure out where he needs to release that pitch. There were just a few pitches where you're like, that's not a competitive pitch, so that's a bad miss. But nothing super, critical, nothing that leads me to be concerned at all. And again, the two breaking balls, times I couldn't tell them apart, except for what they said on the radar gun. The slider is like 88 and the curveball is 82. So yeah, both of them are very, very good. And he had a 50% whiff rate on the breaking balls, again, against a very, very good lineup. And one that is the opposite of the Mariners in that it's good, and also it destroys left-handed pitching. So yeah, it was a really good debut for Kade. Excited to watch him pitch again. He's kind of the nice thing about Kade. If he's going to tap out at about 80 pitches, he's probably still going to go 5 or 6 most nights with those 80 pitches, because he's really efficient. He pounds the strike zone, he attacks, and he can throw any of his pitches in any spot at any time, which makes him a bit of a unique Mariners pitcher, because a lot of Mariners guys I throw my fastball at the top of the zone, and then I have my off speed, my go-to off speed off of that. And that's kind of what I do, and Kade is much more of a kitchen sink guy, a little more Logan Gilbert than Brian Wu, so to speak. And so I'm excited to see him pitch again. I think his next start will be in Toronto. As for what day, we don't know, because Bryce Miller is hurt. And it's pretty obvious that he is. And will the Mariners put him on the IL? No, because the Mariners don't do smart things like that. But Kade,
also because Miller pitched after Anderson. Like, Miller's thing doesn't really matter. It's more the Woo aspect of this that matters.
On Wednesday.
Yeah. So right now, Kade is slated to start on Saturday. We'll see if that happens. If not, it'll be Friday. But his next start, no matter what day it is, will come in Toronto. So, and that's going to be a packed house. As I've learned, I kind of assumed, like, hey, the Blue Jays not particularly good this year. I'll be able to get tickets pretty easily. Nope. That's also like kind of their 50th anniversary celebration, without it being like specifically a 50th anniversary celebration. They're opening up their Hall of Excellence or whatever. They're inducting Buck Martinez into that. So Saturday is like sold out, basically. They're only like
big game energy.
I'm gonna have to spend a lot of money to get into that building, but I will for Kade. But yeah, this is all to say it's gonna be a packed house. It's gonna be a lot of energy in that ballpark. That's gonna be a tough landing spot for Kade to make his first road start of his MLB career.
And yet not too dissimilar from his first overall start in his MLB career, with a packed house and lots of energy. So yeah, we'll see how it goes, but that could be a playoff series, more or less. I mean, at least from a wild card standard. So
sure.
Big weekend series. Kade on the bump. We'll see how it goes, but overall start one, very encouraged. Definitely some things to clean up, but things that will get cleaned up, and the things that need to be cleaned up are not anything that are cause for concern whatsoever.
All right, coming up, we're going to open up the mailbag and answer some of your Mariners questions. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Odoo. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working towards the same goal. And that's true in sports just like it is in business. You know, when we're talking about the Mariners, we talk about how they have the same philosophy at the majors as they do all the way down at the lower levels of the minors. Even with all these different factions, the organization itself is one. They have a vision, they stick to it, and last season showed us what's possible when everyone is working from the same playbook. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/LOCKEDON. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen for all things Mariners. And also thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Let's open up the mailbag and answer some of your Mariners questions here on Mailbag Monday. Starting with NWFXC, who wants to know, with Bryce Miller continuing to struggle to get past the fourth inning, could it be similar to Matt Brash, where they do the conversion type program to turn his stuff into leverage material? I'm not sure if I'm there yet on Bryce, because like last year, the struggles were obviously very, directly connected to the injury that he was dealing with. And this year, now it's being reported he's had a little bit of a lat thing since the Texas start. And that pretty much aligns with when his season started to go sideways this year. And before that, he was dominant, right? So I don't know if I'm there yet on the whole, like, let's just convert Bryce Miller into a reliever thing.
Are we talking long-term, or are we talking like for the rest of this year?
I mean, like for the rest of this year, if you want to throw him in the bullpen, that's fine. But I think the question more so is long-term related.
No, Bryce needs to prioritize his health. And if he needs a surgery, he needs to get the surgery. It's been about 2 months now since he's been a productive, viable major league starter. That's, if you were 68-60 or whatever the record is, if you were in first place by 5 or 6 games, maybe you could live with this. But I feel like they would have put him on the IL if they were in first place and tried to get him right. So, yeah, I mean, the monkey wrench here in terms of 2026 is Brian Wu healthy enough to go out there and pitch every 5 days? And if he's not, do you want to call up Brian Sloan and burn some service time for this team where they currently sit in the standings? Maybe. I mean, they're only 3 back of the division, but maybe not. And how much ammo does Brian Sloan have left anyways? So I think long term, no, I'm not putting Bryce in the bullpen for the rest of this year. Yeah, I would, assuming that I feel good about Wu being able to go every 5 days. I would, because frankly, this version of Bryce Miller is not giving you a better chance to win than even like Jonathan Diaz. So, I mean, tell me I'm wrong. He walked 7 dudes in his last outing, Ty.
Yeah, I mean, he shouldn't have been given an opportunity to walk.
No, he shouldn't have. But again, once again, Dan, we know. So, this year bullpen, fine. Long term, no. I mean, Brash's problem wasn't health, although that became a problem. It was that he couldn't throw strikes. Like he didn't have enough ability to throw strikes consistently. And Bryce, when he's healthy, can certainly do that. And it just, we haven't seen him healthy for a couple of years now, and it sucks. But that's the reality, and that's why you should draft pitching every single year. No, long term, no, not interested. For the rest of this year, sure, depending on the health of the rest of your guys. Yeah.
I'm not there yet on the reliever transition, but yeah. Real Husky Hours wants to know, do you think affording Randy Arozarena is realistic, or would it have to come at the cost of basically no new free agents? I think it's absolutely realistic that they can afford him and still do other things. Cause like, I don't buy into this whole idea that like Randy's going to get like $100+ million on the market. I don't buy that.
You've said it several times, but isn't the comp for him Teoscar Hernandez?
Yeah. Which he got 3 years, 66.
After he had to take like a 1 year, $20-something million.
Yeah. Deal. It's just who, like, I get it. Like there aren't that many bats that are going to be on the market. but when was the last time the market kind of like bent the knee to the free agents, really? Like, when was the last time teams overpaid just because there was a lack of options on the market, specifically in free
Like
agency?
significantly.
Yeah, and like, who was the last 31-year-old who got $100+ million as a corner outfielder with bad defense?
Yeah.
My guess is he's going to get a 3-year, like $75-ish million deal.
Yeah.
This year.
I think that's about right. I think anybody else, anything more than that in extra year is just overpaying for a guy, just because you feel like there aren't better options. And again, even if he did get 3 and 75, I am fairly convinced, without having been told this directly, I'm pretty sure he would not take 3 and 75 from Seattle, but he would take it from somebody else. So we'll see.
Maybe.
Who knows? But could they afford him and still like do other things? Yeah, they could. It'd be a little bit. It'd be a much tighter fit. But remember, JP's coming off the books as well, and I still think they're going to end up trading Kirby, who's supposed to make about $10 million, so that they will have some wiggle room there. But we shall see. But I'd be surprised if he was back. But could they do it if Randy's open to it? Yeah, at the right number, absolutely.
All right, we'll answer more of your questions in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Amazon. This back-to-school season, spend less on your kids with Amazon. We all know how crazy the back-to-school shopping experience can be. It starts with a few items on the list, then suddenly you're shopping for supplies and clothes and lunch gear and tech and about 10 other things you didn't see coming. It adds up fast, like when your kid spends days planning the perfect first day of school outfit because they want to make a great first impression. You end up putting almost as much thought into it as they do. At least the first day photos are worth it. Or how about when it's 9 p.m., the night before school starts, and somebody suddenly remembers they need folders and notebooks and markers and apparently 12 other things nobody mentioned until now. Nothing gets the heart rate up quite like emergency school shopping. And I'm convinced that Prime's Deliver Tomorrow Before 7 a.m. feature was created exclusively for parents in this specific moment. So remember, with Amazon's low back-to-school prices, just spend less on your kids, because every dollar you don't spend on them is a dollar you haven't spent on them. Shop back to school at Amazon and spend less on your kids. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, we have a Patreon. It's called Control the Zone. On there, we talk Mariners, Seahawks, all that good stuff. For more information, go to patreon.com/Control the Zone. Link in the description of this episode. Getting back into your questions here on Mailbag Monday, Max wants to know, would they bring up Ryan Sloan if Bryce Miller goes on the injured list, even though this organization refuses to put people on their injured list, but you get what I mean. Does Wu also have to go on the IL? Doesn't seem like it. Seems like he's going to pitch on Wednesday against the Phillies, but we'll see. So yeah, that's all very dependent on that. So if Bryce has to go on the IL, but Wu doesn't, then they just stick with a 5-man rotation.
Yeah. I don't know if they're going to bring up Sloan regardless. If you get later in the year and you do make up these 3 games that you're behind the Rangers and the Astros, could they pop him in the bullpen real quick?
Yeah,
sure. I don't think that we're going to see him in the rotation.
Yeah,
this year. I don't know.
I'll start. Yeah.
I don't know what the plan is in terms of his workload and all of that. So I don't know how close he is to that threshold either. So, yeah, if Bryce goes on the IL, I mean, assuming Wu doesn't, they still might want 6 starters, because in addition to not letting Anderson go more than 80 pitches in any of his starts, he's only pitched once a week the entire season.
Yeah.
So, like, do they have to manufacture a 6th spot in the rotation? And could that be Sloan? I mean, it probably should be. If you're going to stick with a 6-man rotation, it should be Sloan. But do you just go with Diaz, or are the Mariners willing to go to a 6-man, or are they willing to go to a 5-man because of Wu and because of Anderson? And if they're dead set on the 6-man, would they even consider putting Miller on the IL, regardless of how bad he is? Because frankly, if they haven't done it yet, why would they? Like, it just, this team's refusal to use the IL is bonkers. But anyways, yeah, so they're kind of in this weird spot. They swear Cooper Criswell really would have come in handy. But unfortunately, he's just now getting back to a rehab assignment as a reliever. They can't stretch him out in time for that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think
they might be able to stretch him out enough where he could like kind of piggyback with Cade. But
maybe, I mean, like, could they claim like Zach Little or Littell or whatever, and then just be like,
yeah,
look, it's not good, but at least he's healthy,
Yeah.
type of guy. And so, yeah, could they piggyback? I don't know. I don't know. So it really is a weird situation. It seems clear to me Bryce needs to go to the IL. Like, whatever he's trying to pitch through, he can't do it. He needs to go to the IL. And if that means, you have to roll with Jonathan Diaz for a few weeks as a sixth starter because of Cade's limitations and because you're worried about Brian Wu and how he's going to bounce back, then so be it. It is worth noting the Mariners do have some off days coming up.
Yeah.
So they can, go with a 5-man and still give everybody an extra day's rest somewhat regularly for the rest of the year. So maybe that's the path they go down. But yeah, I don't think Sloan is going to be called up to be a starter this year. I just feel like he's probably at about the end of his allotted innings. And yeah, we'll see. Now, again, if they go on a little bit of a run here and they, I mean, maybe not even in the regular season, maybe it's just postseason. We say, hey, look at that. Sloan's with the boys, on the taxi squad or whatever. And he's pitching in the postseason out of the bullpen. I don't know. Like, are they even going to get to the postseason? Yeah. But yeah, I don't think he's going to be as a starter.
Next question here from Jeff. Has Pete Woodworth and Trent Blank lost their touch with the pitching this year, or was it the loss of Max Wiener during the 2023 season? I think we've just overrated this rotation.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it really is a Pete Woodworth and Trent Blank thing. I don't know. I know there's like some people that still believe there's some extra gear for George Kirby. I know Nick Pollock from Pitcher List thinks that like him switching sides of the rubber could help him and stuff like that. I know there's been suggestions made there, and I don't know. Eventually we'll probably put that to the test to see if there's another organization out there that can get more out of one or two of these guys. But I think for the most part, this rotation just is what it is, and I don't think that's really because of coaching. I don't think that's because of Pete Woodworth or Trent Blank. I think those guys are really good at what they do. I think there's just a limitation on what these guys ultimately are, these pitchers. And then, in terms of the bullpen, like, I just don't think there's enough options there in the bullpen.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair to like, if their whole shtick is like, we turn guys into like good leverage bullpen guys out of nowhere, to their credit, they did, find Pomerantz. Turned out he still had a good year left in him. They did find Tyson Miller. Turned out he still had a good year in him. Unfortunately, the front office made the decision to move on from those guys before the Mariners could benefit from the likes. So,
I think the Max Wiener element of this is more tied to the identifying of pitchers or lack thereof that we've seen over the last few years, because they really haven't hit big on anyone. I mean, I guess you could argue Ferrer, but like Ferrer, like they haven't really taken Ferrer to that next step. Ferrer's just kind of been the guy that he's been in his career, which has been good. Like, don't get me wrong, Ferrer's been really nice.
Fine.
Yeah, but yeah, it's more like, they've let Pomerantz go, they've let Tyson Miller go, they've let Luke Weaver go, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Riley O'Brien is another guy, right? Yeah. So that is where I think the loss of Max Wiener has really hurt them.
Yeah, losing Max Wiener is certainly a factor that we did not, or really could not properly have foreseen at the time that it happened, because we just don't know, right? Like, but yeah, obviously that has definitely played a role. The other thing for Woodworth and Blank is that these guys in the rotation, they've dealt with a lot of nagging injuries over the last 2 years. Bryce has been healthy for 3 weeks of the last 2 years. Yeah. And Brian Wu obviously had the chest thing. Last year was a chest. This year it's the shoulder thing. And Kirby's missed time with his oblique, and Logan's missed time with his elbow. And like, they haven't really been 100% healthy for the last 2 years. Now, again, that's not an excuse. Most teams' rotations aren't healthy whatsoever. But also keep in mind that this front office didn't really draft pitching for a couple of years, like not at any kind of serious level. And now they recently have, obviously, with Anderson and Sloan, Hughes and Taylor the last couple of years. So they are getting back to it. But they went 3 or 4 years there where they didn't take really a high-profile pitcher in any of their drafts. So they hadn't signed any high-profile pitchers in the international free agency in quite a while. So they really did have this like big focus on the position player group over the last few years. And well, now here's the trickle-down effect. If you're not drafting these pitchers and developing them and getting them to the big leagues, you're going to have a shortage. And so, yeah, Max Wiener definitely a part of this, part of the problem. I don't want to assign, blame to Woodworth and Blank because I don't know exactly what their role is in that. But no, I think they have top 10 rotation, but it's closer to 10 than it is to 1. And I think they have a fine bullpen that is a leverage arm short, and that's not Woodworth and Blank's fault. That's Jerry DiPoto's fault. So, I think the pitching's still fine. It's just it's gone through a bit of a rough patch here, and you have guys trying to pitch through some injuries. They haven't hit on that extra bullpen arm, and that's probably where you're missing Max Wiener. But I don't think that's a Woodworth and Blank thing.
No, I think this is more of a
thing and a health thing.
Yeah, I think this is more of a matter that we just kind of need to recalibrate our expectations for this rotation.
Yeah.
Well, that is going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For Colby Patnode, I'm Tony Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Tony Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11 and CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.